Alright guys, so in this video we're going to talk about iterators and generators, which were both part of the ES6 standard. So iterators and generators are both different, but they're used in similar ways, and they're both used to iterate through something. So you can call part of a return, pause it, and then call the next part, and so on. So iterators are kind of like advanced loops that can be paused. And then generators are functions that can be paused and can return multiple values. Okay, so it's kind of hard to explain, so I think it's better if I just show you. So let's start off by creating an iterator. Now I just have my JavaScript sandbox, just an index HTML file with an app.js link to it, and then the app.js is empty. So let's create an iterator example. So we're going to create a function, and let's call this name iterator, and we're going to set a variable up at the top called next index. Alright, we're going to set that equal to 0, and then from this function we want to return an object that has a next function. Alright, and in this next function we want to return based on a conditional. So we're going to use the ternary operator, which we learned about a bunch of sections back. Basically we're going to say if next index, which initially is 0, as you can see above, if that is less than names.length, then we use the question mark for then. Let's actually put this on this next line. Then we want value, we want to return an object that has a value of whatever that name's index is, so next index plus 1, so plus plus. We're going to iterate it by 1. And then we also want this object to include a done value of false, okay, meaning that there's still more to iterate through, so false. Else, okay, we're going to put the colon. Else, then we just want to return an object that says done true, okay, meaning that we're done iterating through whatever it is. This should actually be passed in names. Okay, when we say names.length, we're talking about whatever's passed into the iterator. Alright, so let's go ahead and use this. Now we'll go down here and we'll create an array of names. So let's just say, well, let's put this in a variable. We'll say const, we'll call it names array, and we'll set it to an array of names. We'll say Jack, Jill, and John. All right, now what we want to do is initialize the iterator and pass in the names array. So to do that, we'll say const, we'll call it names, set it to name iterator, and then pass in names. Alright, so now what we can do is we can take this variable names and we can iterate through it. So let's do console.log. We'll say names dot next. Let's actually just do that and see what we get. So we'll go ahead and save, and let's open up our console. Names is not defined. 17. Const names equals name iterator. Oh, this should be names array passed in. Alright, so what does that give us? It gives us an object with the value of Jack and done false. Alright, so up here we passed in the names array. This was true. Next index was less than the length, so it returned this back to us, which is the first one, the first name that that's in this array. Okay, and it also returns done false. Now if you want the value, which you usually do, then you would say dot value and save, and you just get Jack. Alright, so if we want the next one, which is Jill, then we would do the same thing. If I go ahead and copy that, save, we get Jill. I go ahead and do it again. We get John. Okay, so you can see it's iterating through this array each time we call names.next. Do it again, and it gives us undefined. All right, if we were to remove the value of the last one and check, you can see that done is equal to true. All of these done is equal to false because it's not done. It's not done iterating through. All right, so that's how this works. Now I realize it may be tough to think of how you would use this in an application. So in the next video, we are going to actually create a little project or part of a project using an iterator just like this. All right, so now I want to move on to generators. Generators are similar, but they're more they're basically functions that can return multiple values. Okay, they can what's called yield values. So what I'm going to do is create, actually let's say generator example, and we'll say function, and let's just call this say names. All right, now one thing I forgot to make this an actual generator is we need to put an asterisk right here. That's what tells JavaScript that this is a generator, not just a function. All right, now in this function we can do anything we want, and then we can yield values from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to yield the name Jack. It doesn't have to be a string. You can yield whatever you want, but I'm going to do a couple of them. So yield Jill, and then yield John. Okay, so now we have a generator function, and then what we need to do is assign a variable to this generator. So let's say name equals say names. Okay, and then we're going to console.log, and we'll say name.next. So let's see what that gives us. We'll save, and we get value Jack done false, just like we did with the iterator. So you can see how these are very similar. They're just set up differently. Okay, here we're yielding values from our function. So if we wanted to just get the value, we could again just say dot value. All right, if I do it again, oops. If I do it again, we get Jill. Again, we get John. Again, we get undefined. All right, so the result is the same. So let's do another example. Let's say we want a function or a generator to generate IDs. So this will be an ID creator. So we could say function asterisk, and let's say create IDs. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll say let index, we'll create an index of 0, and then we'll just say while true. Okay, while true is obviously always going to be true. Then we want to yield the index value, which is 0 plus plus. Okay, so we're going to increment it by 1. So each time we loop through the while loop, we're going to increment it by 1. And then let's go outside of this and say const gen equals create IDs, and then we'll say console.log gen.next.value, and we'll save that. We get 0. All right, if we wanted the IDs to start at 1, we could set that to 1. All right, and then we'll just copy this. Let's paste it in a bunch of times and save, and you'll see it'll just keep generating. It'll just keep adding 1. Okay, it'll never end. So that's an example of what we could do with a generator, is just continuously create IDs like this if we wanted to for some reason. All right, so in the next video, like I said, I want to give you an example of something we could do that has to do with the DOM using an iterator. So we're going to create a profile scroller.